Well, good evening and welcome to the Lunen 2.0 Fellows Banquet. No food stealing. I'm Tom Dykhouse, the chair of the Lunen Center Board, and it is my distinct honor and privilege to be able to welcome all of you here tonight as we celebrate the final night of a really remarkable few days that we've spent together. We want to welcome all of you to this banquet tonight, and I want to add a special word of welcome to Bob McKillop, who is our guest speaker tonight. Bob's the former basketball coach at Davidson College. Our friend Dave will be introducing Bob more fully a little bit later in this evening, but Bob, we certainly want to welcome you to our dinner tonight. Thanks for being here with us. I think Dr. David Smith is here with us tonight. Or maybe David is not here with us tonight. Well, David is going to be one of our keynoters tomorrow morning, so we're looking forward to his talk as well. We've got representatives of Calvin's athletic department here. We want to welcome them, and we want to offer a special word of thanks to those who have sponsored this event and helped to make it possible. I think that everyone who has participated in Lunen 2.0 would agree that what we have heard and experienced this week has affirmed our roles as Christian school leaders. We often talk about this being a lonely and difficult profession that we have chosen. And it's times like this where we are able to be together to spend time in learning and time in fellowship that is so important and so reinforcing. The breakout sessions and keynote speakers have invigorated us, inspired us, and blessed us. Thank you to everyone who has spent time and effort in developing keynote addresses and in developing the breakout sessions and in other ways contributed to the success of these few days that we spent together. Finally, I believe that we can be very grateful that after nearly 2 decades, the Lunen Center is still faithfully fulfilling its critical mission of advancing Christian education around the world. And so I want to invite you to have a great evening together, enjoying a good dinner, enjoying good fellowship, enjoying Bob's talk. And I want to welcome Lunen Fellow and Lunen Center Board Member Wendy Hoffman to lead us in an opening prayer. Wendy?
I'm reminded in these past few days about our shared purpose and our calling that truly unites us in this big tent of leadership and Christian education. Our shared purpose, passing down the faith to the next generation. And as was spoken in our opening dinner, from Psalm 78, that they would know the praiseworthy deeds of the Lord, his power and his might, and the wondrous things that he has done. That is our shared purpose and our shared calling. Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, creator of the universe, Almighty God who calls us your children, you created us in your image, each one of us, each one of our students and graduates. You created us with unique gifts and abilities to be used for a divine purpose, to play a role in your story of restoration in our broken world, to play a role in furthering your kingdom here on this earth. Lord, we thank you for your faithfulness to us as leaders and to our schools during times of thriving and joy and during times of challenge and hardship and disappointment. Help us to face our challenges and our failures with faithfulness and our successes with gratitude. We bring our whole selves to your calling in our lives. We pray for discernment and wisdom, for clarity and grace, and for resilience and joy as we work to sustain excellence in Christian education in the years ahead. We are the body of Christ, and each one of us is a part of it. Help us to continue to see possibilities in how we can work together to utilize the gifts and abilities that you have given us to support students and families and to further your kingdom through the work of Christian education. May we make the most of our time together this evening, and may it be honoring to your name, and we give you all the glory. In Jesus' name, amen.
Enjoy your dinner. We're going to welcome our guest speaker in just a second. But before we do that, we want to remember the fact that this is the second Gordon Vanderbrug address that we're here to witness tonight. Many of you in this room knew Gordon or heard about him through your association with the Van Lunen Fellows Program. It was his can-do entrepreneurial spirit that inspired the creation of the Executive Management Education Program for the heads of Christian schools that has become known as the Van Lunen Fellows Program. It was also his dedication to Christian education, and above all, his faithful attention to the voice of the Holy Spirit that led to the creation of this institution that we are all associated with. Gordon called the Van Lunen Center a gift from the Holy Spirit and said its goal was to make a real difference in the world of Christian education in 10 years. And boy, has it ever made a difference in the world of Christian education. The Van Lunen Center Fellows Program is now approaching its second decade, having graduated nearly 400 heads of Christian schools whose leadership impacts nearly 500,000 people, 500,000 students in Christian schools around the world. We give thanks to God for this program and for all who have supported it, sustained its mission, and tended to its day-to-day management. And personally, it has been my incredible honor and privilege to have succeeded Gordon as the chair of the Van Lunen Center Board. In appreciation for gifts and achievements and all good things, Gordon would routinely say, "Thank you, Lord." We offer that prayer this evening as we gather to celebrate the gifts of and to the Van Lunen Center and our continuing dedication to Christian education. I want to acknowledge three special guests who are here with us tonight. Kathy Vanderbrug and Jim Achterhoff, who shared Gordon's vision 17 years ago, who walked together with and alongside Gordon in the creation of this program. And also Shirley Rules, the first Van Lunen Center director, who helped shape the design and curriculum of the Fellows Program. We're blessed to have all three of you here with us this evening. I wonder if the three of you would stand, and let's express our appreciation to them. What an incredible difference your work has made in the lives of the people sitting in this room, and by extension, the tens of thousands of students that are represented in their schools. Thank you so much for your dedication, for your commitment, and for your vision in having created the Van Lunen Center and the Fellows Program. I want to invite my friend Dave Hahn to introduce our keynote speaker. But first, let me say a couple of words about Dave. Dave is distinctive in a lot of ways. But the distinction that we want to note tonight is that he is the longest serving Van Lunen Center faculty member. He came on board with the first cohort in 2007. So this is year 16, maybe cohort 17? This is cohort 17 that he's working with. And he has mentored all of the nearly 400 fellows that have gone through the program in those 17 years. Bottom line, everybody knows and appreciates Dave, including our keynote speaker, who Dave will introduce now.
And thank you to Tom, who's done a great job filling in for Gordon Vanderbrug after Gordon left us. You know, I just tell one story about Gordon Vanderbrug, who was just, you know I have to tell some stories here. Bob, your time is getting shorter all the time since I'm up here. But when Gordon, our dear friend and founder here, passed away, his funeral was in Boston. My wife is such a Yankee fan that she refused to go to Boston her entire life. I said, I'm not asking her to go to the ball game. She said, no, the city, I'm not going. We've been all over the world. But for Gordon, we drove into Boston from upstate New York. And I will tell you, when we drove on the highway right past Fenway Park, she turned her head. But that's how much we love Gordon, and we love Jim and Shirley, who got me into this whole thing. And we thank all of you. Just one quick word that just says, as Tom said, 17 years I've had the honor of doing this. And you are what the dream was about, having this group of people who are trained to lead Christian schools. That was the vision. And you are it. And so it's tremendously rewarding to be part of something like this, and thank you. I always tell the people in the Lutheran high school business, what you do is holy work, and it really is holy work you do every day, even when it feels terribly stressful, and but it is holy work you're doing. So now I'm going to go on to introduce my friend Bob McKillop. You see him up here. He's our fourth keynote speaker. We've been friends for 36 years. He was a colleague at Long Island Lutheran in New York. He was head of school. I'll tell you that story. He's a legendary basketball coach. And he's a leader. Now, leaders are leaders. And he is a fabulous leader. And look at that picture. He's in charge. He's dynamic. Division I basketball coach. And we always called him at Lehigh the GQ man. He was always dressed. Or since he's got a little older, we call him the Silver Fox. But look at the way he's dressed, right? So obviously, I go to the same tailor that he goes to. So Bobby, when I'm flying back to Charlotte, near where he lives, and I'm going to take you to really outfit you in the clothes that I wear. Bass Pro Shops. I'm going to reward you with a trip to Bass Pro Shops. But I knew him when. So this is back before he was the Silver Fox. And in 1987, I came to Long Island Lutheran. Bob was there, born in Queens. You'll notice when he speaks tonight, that is not a North Carolina accent that he has. He went to the big Catholic boys' school, Chaminade there. He played basketball there very well. He went to East Carolina University and played, and then ended up back on Long Island at Hofstra University, where he was team MVP and leader. And he was a free agent for the Philadelphia 76ers. So that is not bad. But then he went into coaching. And this is where he really has made his mark. And this is just one of his teams from back. You can tell it's back in the day for the black and white, right? And first he coached at Holy Trinity High School, Roman Catholic High School down the road. Then he went to Davidson as an assistant coach for a year, but then he came to Long Island Lutheran for 10 years. He headed up our summer program. He was a head basketball coach. He had 182 wins during that time. Divide that by 10, you get an idea how many. He had 5 New York State championships. He coached people like Bill Wennington, who played on the Bulls with Michael Jordan. And he led camps and got players he was like the original person to get foreign players. The first time I met you, you were saying, I'm going over to Italy to lead camps. I'm like, wow, that's a whole new thing, And just think of all the international players we have now. So dynamic back then. He is one of us, though, I also want to say. our school experienced a crisis in the 1980s, and they made him, the board said, would you be the executive director? So for 2 very tumultuous years, he held our school together. It's a very strong school now. We're very proud of him. Might not have made it at all without this guy stepping up with 0 training to do that work, but with a lot of leadership. By the way, right in the middle of his 2 tenures, we had a executive director that was hired. He lasted 3 months. And when they gave me the job, I told my wife, I said, it's probably not a real steady job, you know? But if I do nothing but lock the door, I can last longer than 3 months. I came, and 2 years later, he left. I don't know what that was about. But then he went on to Davidson College in North Carolina, just north of Charlotte. His first year, he was 4-24. The first thing he did after that was he went up to a more difficult conference. I said, Bob, are you crazy? You were 4-24. But every step he has moved up, and there's something to be said for that in our leadership. And he was there for 33 years as a head coach. And the theme of our conference is sustained excellence in Christian education. 33 years being the coach of this beautiful college in North Carolina. His record was 634 wins, 380 losses, 10 NCAA tournaments. This is for a school that has 2,000 kids in it. 8 postseason NITs, Southern Conference wins 230, the record, 7 times Coach of the Year, on and on and on I could fill. The other thing I want to say to you as educators is every single one of Bob's basketball players graduated from Davidson. Every single one. And that is a highly selective, like top 20 always, liberal arts college. So anyway, has anybody seen this documentary? If you haven't, you should. It's on what? Disney? Apple? Apple TV. And this is underrated with Stephen Curry's story. And 2006, 2007, it was a rebuilding year, and Bob recruited Stephen Curry because, well, he'll tell the story. But in 2007 and 2008, the first year he had Stephen and that team, 29-5. So again, 4-24 and 29-5. Then he went to, and people maybe remember this, in 2008, they went all the way to the Elite Eight. They beat Gonzaga, they beat Georgetown, they beat Wisconsin, and they lost by 2 points from going to the Final Four against Kansas. This is a school with 2,000 kids. I think another thing to say, and Stephen Curry, and really, you've got to see this documentary. I wrote to Bob after I watched it. I said, "You're like the star, man." And but Stephen really gives him a lot of credit for what went on. I think another interesting thing is Sean Brown, who's one of our fellows, and also works at Charlotte Christian, where Barry Giller, our faculty member and good friend, is. Sean Brown was his high school coach, so what a connection. And his college coach is from Lou High, so how good is that? And this just shows, this is at Stephen Curry's graduation. If you watch the documentary, I don't want to blow the whole thing. Anyway, he walks off the stage and graduates. After he's like, how many times NBA MVP and champion. But it's not just about Stephen Curry. I just read something on CBS Sports website that said, even after Curry's departure for the NBA, the Wildcats remained a force in college basketball, making 5 more NCAA tournaments. Overall, his teams won over 20 games, 17 years. He won over 25 games, 7 years. And this was quite great. We went to a game there, and they named the court, the McKillop court there. And, Bobby, I don't know how your head even fits in the door. Because before the game, the students chant, "Bob McKillop." Oh my gosh, I mean, like, how great is that, right? I said, I knew this guy. He's not that good. In the final year, that he was coach. His final year, just to give you some idea, was 27-7, went back to the NCAA tournament. He's a nominee for the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame in Springfield, Virginia. By the way, Springfield, Massachusetts. By the way, you Canadians, Naismith was Canadian, right? And he retired after 33 years at Davidson. The moment he said that he had retired, I texted him and said, "Great, now you can speak at this event I have coming up." And he wrote back and was very excited. He has a wonderful wife, Kathy. These are just some coaching shots of him at Davidson. And wonderful wife, Kathy, he'll tell you about 3 children, great in-laws, 6 grandkids. This is slapping 5 before they went to the NCAA tournament. And this is one of his 6 grandkids here. So it is an honor to welcome a true leader and a great friend of Christian education and a great friend of mine, Bob McKillop.
I really feel at home tonight. What a special feeling you have given to me. I've got a lot of gimmicks up here that I'm going to use to talk about what I did, how I did it. But I first must begin with, I think, the foundation of leadership, and that's gratitude. Do you realize what happens when you say thank you to somebody? Not only do they feel good, but you feel good. It's the most extraordinary gift that you can give to people, and it's the building block of leadership. So I'm incredibly grateful for this opportunity to be with you. Shirley, Jim, Kathy, thank you for being the heart and soul of the Van Lunen Institute. Yvonne, Jan, and Jim, thank you for the Zoom call, for the comfort that you created for me in working out the logistics of being here. And Dave, thank you for inviting me. You know, Dave didn't mention this, that I'd not be here today. I'd not be a college coach with the experience I've had unless Dave saved the day at Long Island Lutheran High School. It is one of the greatest stories in Christian education, the way he not only revived, but rebuilt Long Island Lutheran in the 1980s. And I say thanks to all of you. You know what you're doing by being here? You've invited me to look at my notes, to rewrite my notes, to reaffirm everything I believed in my life. Back in January of last year, the Golden State Warriors are playing the Boston Celtics. And it was an ESPN game, and Stephen stole the ball at half court right before halftime, took it from the other side of half court and threw the ball at the basket, and it went in, and they ran into the locker room, and it became one of those ESPN highlights. And everyone's saying, lucky shot, wow. That wasn't a lucky shot. That's something Stephen would practice back at Davidson College. He'd practice extraordinary shots and became good at it. And you see, that's why I'm thanking you tonight, because you've made it my habit to reaffirm myself. You've also given me, I think, two of the greatest gifts that we have: time and love. Now think about that. You're in the airport. You're trying to catch a flight. You're on the electric walkway, and there's this guy in front of you with his baggage here and his body here, and you can't get past him. You realize how precious time is? When you don't have it, when you do have it? You only have a set amount of time in your life. You can make more money, you can't make more time. And the essence, the absolute essence of love is how much we give of ourselves. How much do we give of ourselves? That's what the essence of love is. I give my family everything. What more do they need? What more do they want? They want your eyes. They want your ears. They want your presence. They want your focus. And when you give that, you get no applause. So time and love. We're going to talk about that tonight. And what's interesting about time and love, those are the two gifts that God gives to us. But they're also the two gifts that God wants most back from us. So tonight, I hope to coach you. This is our locker room. I'm no expert, despite what Dave said. 50 years I was a coach. 46, I've been a husband. 43, I've been a father. 12, I've been a grandfather. But I'm still learning. I don't have any secret ingredients. I don't have any magic potion. I don't have any special formula. I'm not an expert. I've failed. In fact, I failed at Davidson 380 times. 300, he talked about the wins, 380 failures. I'm actually still in the rough draft of my life. I'm 73 years old and I'm still in the rough draft of my life. How special is that? See, there is the spouse, there is the father, there is the grandfather, there is the coach, there is the member of the community, there is the Christian that I want to be, and there is the spouse, the father, the grandfather, member of the community, the coach, the Christian that I want to be. And the chasm that exists between those two is far and it's wide. Have you ever failed? I remember high school, the cut list. Remember, you guys and gals, remember the cut list? You'd run into the locker room and you'd look for your name in the cut list, and the heart it's pounding. Am I on the cut list? You didn't get that promotion. You turned down for that job. You didn't get admitted to law school, grad school. You failed the test. Failure. You made a regrettable decision that impacted your family, your life, in a very, very pronounced way. I often contemplate, what's it like for that child to go to your school, a new school, and they get there the first day, and no one knows them, and they stand in the corner, or they stand on the side by the window, and no one speaks to them. And they go home that afternoon, and what do they say? I'm not going back there. The next morning, they got to go back, and the anxiety and the apprehension, and they have to go back. The pain of that. When I was at Long Island Lutheran, I had to stand in front of the faculty one Friday afternoon, and I called a meeting for the faculty and staff in the chapel at the conclusion of the school day. One of the greatest failures in my own personal life. I'm sorry. I don't have paychecks for you. Can you imagine not giving a paycheck to people who were living for their mortgage, for their electric bill, for their car insurance, for their groceries on a week-by-week basis, and now you don't have a paycheck because your school is going bankrupt? Thanks be to God, Dave Hahn came 2 years later And you know what Dave Hahn did? He paid every faculty member back. Everyone that did not get that paycheck that day, Dave's work got that back. A miracle worker. You guys are leaders. You gals are leaders. Let me tell you about leadership. Victory has 1,000 fathers. Defeat is an orphan. Some people will think you can walk on water. Some people think you can't even swim. Some people will build a statue for you. Some will tear it down. That's the vulnerability that you have decided to choose to be part of your life as a leader in Christian education. That's a pretty strong commitment. Well, tonight, I want to be your servant. I want to serve you. Forgive me if I tread on any theological landmines. I'm a Catholic, a Roman Catholic, a practicing Roman Catholic, a devout Roman Catholic. You know, we all drive in different cars. Our road signs, Jim, they're in different languages, but the roadway was paved by Jesus, and I think we're all in accord about that, and I think we're all in agreement about that, and that roadway leads to him. And I think we can all say that despite our differences in our denominational beliefs, that's true. So why the heck is a basketball coach talking to you guys? You ever get puzzled about that? You look at the program and say, what the heck is a basketball coach talking to us about? Well, the parallels in our life are extraordinary. They're absolutely extraordinary. I looked at the Van Lunen Institute book and I listened today and I said, my goodness gracious. But there's something that even supplants that. There's something that even overextends itself beyond that, and that is this very simple belief. See, I think we're all coaches. I think you're a coach as a spouse. I think you're a coach as a father. I think you're a coach as a member of the community. Yeah, you're coaches as heads of school, but I think we're coaches in every aspect of our life. So why not hear from a coach? See, coaching, you influence, you impact, you inspire, you excite. And what a privilege and honor that is, isn't it? I mean, you think about it. You analyze that. What a privilege and what an honor. I must caution you. I have to caution you, and I see it right now. Do you realize there's a lot of people ticked off about us being here tonight? The demons. There are demons everywhere. I guarantee you there are demons right now trying to distract you from what I'm saying. Cunning, sly, they are everywhere in life. It happens in basketball, but it happens in life. It happens in school, it happens in your family. I fight the demons every day. And it's really interesting how I can correlate this to coaching. The great, terrific, successfully coach of University of Alabama, one of his great statements is, Nick Saban, he says, I got to eliminate distractions. That's what his goal is as the coach of the University of Alabama. My goal as a Christian educator is to eliminate demons. My goal as a father, as a spouse, as a Christian is to eliminate the demons. You know, you win, you have a great day at work, you got a big check from some donor, and you stick your chest out, and you think you're bulletproof, and you think you can't make a mistake. You know everything. You lose, and there's a pity party. Poor me, woe is me. You blame, you point your finger. You doubt. Your confidence is eroded. That's as the headmaster. How about as a parent? How about as a spouse? Do you feel that same win and loss mentality as a spouse? Are you as distracted from the demons in your life as a spouse, as a parent, as a grandparent, as you are in that life as a Christian educator? You know, suppose there was a scoreboard about that. I mean, there's a scoreboard in my life as a basketball coach. There's a scoreboard in your life as a Christian educator. How about if there was a scoreboard about you as a parent or a spouse? Pretty much of an exposure. The game I coached lasted 40 minutes. The game we live lasts 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. That's what coaching is. Isn't it interesting that the best players are the ones who practice best? And that's what we got to do. We got to practice. So, you know, when you practice being a good spouse, that helps you become a great head of school. When you practice being a good mom, that helps you being a better head of school. All of that practice just builds up and reinforces and affirms. Now, we've all had these same experiences that I'm going to address tonight. We play a different game. We're on a different court. We wear different uniforms. So travel this journey with me. Travel my journey, and forgive me for impacting my own life on this, but I think it's worth hearing about. We live in a time of dreams. I don't know how many of you are in my age group. I don't think many of you are, but do you remember when, Kathy, you would remember. Do you remember when a man on the moon was like something on TV, Flash Gordon? We didn't know anything about that, right? And now there are so many people who've never lived a day of their life in which there wasn't a man on the moon. You guys, gals in the 40s, the Miracle on Ice in 1980, American hockey. Oh my goodness. A black man in the White House. A skinny, frail, baby-faced kid. MVP in the NBA. We live in a time of dreams. And I think one way of creating dreams is to use images. You have photos of your family on your desk? You have photos of your family in your house, different walls in your house? Do you ever look at them? I mean, really look at them? Do you really engage yourself with them? Stop and look at that moment in time? Or do we just walk by it? Routine. You know, we're always looking beyond. We never look in front. I used to do this exercise with our team. Our arena, let's imagine this is our entrance to our arena. This is the lobby. And those two doors and those two doors are glass doors. So imagine those are glass doors. And it's alarmed. There's a code to get in, and there's a sign. They're all glass. So there's no wood there. It's all glass. And there's a little sign that says, emergency exit alarm will sound. So I would bring our team up to the lobby, and I'd sit them here, and I'd plant a basketball outside that door. And I'd tell a freshman, I said, hey, Grant, could you go outside? We're going to do an exercise right now. Could you go outside and get that basketball out there? And what do you think Grant would do? Grant would go right to the door, right through the door, alarm would sound, and all the team would like, stupid Grant, didn't see the sign. But the message was, we got to see what's in front of us. We can't look beyond to that basketball that's out beyond the window. We got to see that sign that's in front of us, and we don't see that. Images. Photos on the desk. I got a lot of show and tell objects tonight. This was our calendar, our scheduled calendar for 2003, 2004. I took the team down to Lake Norman, and I put them in a canoe. 11 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and I said, this is going to be our team photo for the year. and they looked at me like I had four heads. They could not understand it. And then I had to explain them the canoe theory. And the canoe theory is very simple. The head of school is at the top of the canoe. He's pointing out where you're going. He's giving that direction. Where are you going? Where are we going? There's some obstacles in the way. I'm going to clear them, or I'm going to steer us clear of them. Second row in the canoe, the board members. They've got your back. The third group in the canoe, faculty, staff. The fourth, the students. And everyone in the canoe is given a paddle. And if everyone in the canoe doesn't put their paddle in the water and row with their paddle, the canoe's not going to advance to the destination. And if some staff member says, geez, I should be on the administration, I should be an assistant principal, and gets up to decide to change his seat, what happens to the canoe? Tips over. And the guy in the head of the canoe is smart. He understands he's going to pull aside to get supplies. But he's going to give up his position for a little bit so someone else could be in the head of the canoe. That's what a great leader does. He teaches his staff how to be a leader. And then we got a couple of those knucklehead faculty members. My goodness. They don't want to row. They're too tired. I'm tired. So they're not rowing. And it slows down the canoe. Or they take their paddle out of the water and hold it up, and the canoe doesn't advance. Is that what your school is like? It's a canoe. That's what your leadership has got to be like. You got to get everybody paddling in the same direction. But you got to determine where you're going. I got crazy ideas. Back in the 1990s, there was a coach at Northwestern University, a football coach named Gary Barnett, and he wrote a book called High Hopes. And you've heard the Sinatra song, and he's got high hopes, he's got high hopes. You heard that song? I used to play that for our team, and they think I'm nuts. A goofy Frank Sinatra song. Come on, coach. But I wanted our players to have high hopes. I wanted them to have an image. And I took it a step further. We had 250 kids who would come to our camp 3 weeks a year, and I played it at the end of camp every day. And the moms and dads are picking their sons off, and it's blasting over the loudspeaker, and the smiles on their faces, and they're leaving, and the hugs and the embrace. High hopes. I wonder how many today that resonates when they hear that song, High Hopes. Well, my journey as a coach began with dreams. I dreamed about playing center field for the New York Yankees. I wanted to be the next Mickey Mantle. Sadly, the Yankees didn't know who I was. Then I dreamed about becoming the point guard of the New York Knicks. They didn't know who I was either. Madison Square Garden. Ryan, you imagine being on the floor of Madison Square Garden playing for the Knicks? And Dave mentioned I was with the Philadelphia 76ers. So let me just add a little footnote to that. I went to Chaminade High School. And I don't make this as a bragging kind of comment, but we were put in homerooms based on your alphabet every morning from 8 a.m. until 8:40, and you had homeroom and notes, you prepared yourself for the school day. I was in the first row, McKillop, McManus, McNeely. Over here in this row, O'Reilly. Bill O'Reilly. Yes, that Bill O'Reilly. And he used to make fun of me all the time. He used to make fun of me all the time. I never let that bother me. Never. Dave mentioned my clothes. That's the reason I dress. because Bill O'Reilly made fun. He says, you wore that same tie yesterday. In fact, you wore that same tie for the last week. You haven't changed your shirt in 2 weeks. And it was true. My father was a New York City cop. We didn't have any money. This is this private high school, the richest private high school around. I had to work different jobs to pay for my tuition, and I didn't have any clothes. But I got tired of O'Reilly making fun of me. It's funny how we get motivated, isn't it? So I never dreamed about being a coach. I really never did. And then I get this job. I get cut from the 76ers. And the story about the 76ers was, yes, I was cut, and I wasn't going to do a spin job like O'Reilly does. And let me tell you, I know his story, and he's a spinner. So that Philadelphia 76er team in 1972, the record is 9-72. It's the worst team in NBA history. Check the records. So if you add it all up, I was cut from the worst team in NBA history. So I become a coach. And I watch TV, and wow, I could do that. And we had great success. I was at Holy Trinity, a Catholic high school, where I was a history teacher. And then I go to Long Island Lutheran High School, where I was an administrator and eventually interim head of school. And we had great players, great assistant coaches, great support. Bill Wennington, as Dave mentioned, played for us. Matt Doherty, the player who played for North Carolina with Michael Jordan, Notre Dame coach, North Carolina coach, he played for us. We had really good players. I watch ESPN, and I'm looking at ESPN, and I'm saying, man, I could coach just as good as those guys. I got better offense than those guys. I'm smarter than those guys. And we're talking about legends. We're talking about Louis Carnesecca, Rolly Massimino, John Thompson, Jim Boeheim. We're talking about legends, and I'm saying I can compete with those guys. So I get this job moving from high school to Division I. I moved from Davidson College, head coach, to head coach at Davidson College. Division I, Long Island Lutheran to Davidson College. How about that? Big jump. And I'm ready to go down there, wave my magic wand. And guess where it's going after I wave my magic wand? Brian, guess where I'm going?
NBA.
Yeah. Where in the NBA, maybe?
Knicks, probably.
Yeah, you got it. I'm going back to the Knicks. I'm going to be in Madison Square Garden. I may not be the point guard, but I'm better. I'm the coach. Take me home. First year, 4-24. That coach that got fired before me, he recruited really bad players. You believe that? Second year, 9-19. Dean of admissions doesn't let anybody in school. President gives us no budget money at all. I mean, no budget, difficult to get in school. How do you expect me to win? Third year. My assistant coaches, they're not as detailed as I am. They don't commit. They're not in the office as long as I am. I was blaming everybody. I was pointing fingers at everybody. You see, I came to Davidson College as the head coach with an incredible, insatiable work ethic. That means nothing as it stands by itself. You can work your tail off, but if it stands by itself, it means absolutely nothing. I was confident, that's important, but I was arrogant as can be. And confidence blended with arrogance is lethal. No humility whatsoever. And then, I thought I cared about my players. I thought I was a good guy. I mean, I gave you a scholarship. What more do you want from me? I never showed that I cared about them. And it was those three things that spelled doom for me. So I'm entering the fourth year of my contract. It's April of 1992, and we're at a family vacation at Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. And you wonder why God does what he does in his timing. And in his timing, I read a book on that vacation. And for whatever reason, I have no idea how I even got the book, why I read the book, but I read it. And the book was not magic. It was a book about Notre Dame, 1988, national championship season. And in the opening page of the book, and maybe that was the only thing I read in the book, but it was the opening page of the book, and it said, Lou Holtz called a meeting. First meeting of the season, August of 1988. They came together, all these great players, all Americans, and he sat them down and he said three things. He said, if you can be trusted to do your best, if you are committed to doing your best, if you care about each other and you show that you care, we will be champions this year. And I read that, and I don't know what energized me, what inspired me, but that became what Barry spoke about today relative to mission statement. It became the mission statement for our team. Trust, commitment, and care. If you look at Stephen Curry closely, during his time at Davidson, he had one tattoo, TCC. In all his time at Davidson, he had that one tattoo, TCC. And Stephen was like so many of our players. They wore TCC, trust, commitment, and care, on their heart. They didn't just wear it like some nice little saying or some nice little mission statement. They wore it on their body, but they wore it on their heart. And the first thing I learned about trust, care, and commitment was you needed to coach yourself. If you want to get your players to trust, to commit, to care, you had to model that experience. So what I did was something that builds culture. And I know you want to know about culture. I took these two magazines and I put them on the coffee table in my office. These are the preseason issues of Sports Illustrated. And back in the days of the 70s, 80s, and 90s, you ran to the newsstand to get these issues of Sports Illustrated. This is the one from 1964. And in the issue of 1964, number one team in the country is Davidson College. Huh. This is the one in my freshman year, sophomore year, 1968. UCLA is 1, North Carolina 2, Kentucky 3, Davidson 4. I had the boldness to put these magazines on my coffee table for every player to walk in and say, Coach, what are those magazines? I said, turn to that page. You'll see what they are. They'd look, and they were stunned. Culture? We had a culture at Davidson that had died because no one resurrected it. No one made people aware of it. And we took that culture and put it in living color in front of them every day. And I walked in and I looked at those things and I said, wow, wow. And we're 294 in the country and I'm putting top 10 in the country? What am I, nuts? 1992. Coaching yourself. You know, see, it's all about details. If there's any Buffalo Bill fans here, Super Bowl 26. Thurman Thomas was a great running back. And Marv Levy, their coach, had devised these two special plays that they were going to open up the Super Bowl with. Two, what he thought were game-breaking plays. Never seen before, but he was going to use them. Thurman Thomas is juiced. Marv Levy's ready. National anthem being sung. Harry Connick. The cheerleaders took Thurman Thomas's helmet and moved it so that Harry Connick could get a pathway to sing the national anthem. And the game's ready to start, and where's Thurman Thomas? He can't find his helmet. So because he can't find his helmet, because that detail was overlooked, they don't run the 2 plays for Thurman Thomas because he's not on the field. He's still looking for his helmet. And the Bills lost. Now, did they lose because of that little incident? I don't know. But it's that kind of detail that you need as a leader. You need that detail to have the success that you want as a head of school. Let me fast forward to the year we made it to the Elite Eight. Right before Christmas, we play North Carolina State in the RBC Center in Raleigh, North Carolina. We lose by 1 point. We're in the locker room, we're commiserating, we're going home for Christmas. Our record is 4-6. Woe is us. What are we going to do? Locker room, RBC. 25 games later, we're back at the RBC Center to play Gonzaga in the first round of the tournament. And what's fascinating is we won those 25 games. We won 25 straight games since we left that RBC Center right before Christmas. 25 straight. We get back in the RBC Center. How do you think our players felt? They felt pretty confident. Same locker, same feel. We've been on these baskets before. We know what the rims are like. We draw Gonzaga in the first round. You want to talk about details? Gonzaga had to come from Spokane. We drove an hour and a half, 2 hours in a bus. They had to drive across the country. They had to fly across the country in a different time zone. What a setup. We win the game. And we won the game because Stephen made a great 3. But what people never talk about is that 3 is the result of one of our players, Andrew Lovedale from Benin City, Nigeria, wrestled a loose ball with 54 seconds from 3 Gonzaga players, threw it to Stephen. Stephen made the 3. We win the game. We wound up winning the game. Little detail. Next game, we play Georgetown. We're down 17 points with 17 minutes to go in the game. We decided on a strategy at halftime, and I'll address that a little bit later. And his strategy worked like a charm. But what even was more detailed about that was we were playing in Raleigh, and in the second game was North Carolina against Arkansas. And last year, 2007, North Carolina played Georgetown in Greensboro to get to the Final Four, and Georgetown beat North Carolina. How do you think the North Carolina fans felt about Georgetown? They didn't like those Jesuits. I mean, they didn't like Georgetown at all. So at the 17-minute mark, we're down 17. We're trying to figure out, we made a little adjustment, but guess who came into the stands? The North Carolina fans. Guess who they rooted for? We all of a sudden got like 10,000 more fans rooting for us. So you talk about luck, you talk about details, you talk about how those things happen. That's exactly how it happened. So let's talk about trust. Can you be trusted to do your best? Can you trust your teammates? Can you trust your schoolmates? Can you trust the system that you have established? You know, Robert Shapiro, during the trial for O.J. Simpson, was asked, well, what do you think really happened that night? You know what he said? My responsibility is not to deal with the truth. Truth is like the biggest casualty of our culture right now. Truth. When we recruited Stephen, and everyone says, why did you recruit Stephen Curry? He's skinny, frail. How did you know that was going to happen? I didn't know it was going to happen. But, you know, I went to this tournament in Las Vegas, an AAU tournament, the summer before he's a senior, and I watched him play. And all the big-time coaches are in this main gym. And here we're at Calvin. They have this beautiful gym, and then they have this little gym over here in the same building that's sort of like a practice gym. So Stephen's playing in the practice gym. No college coaches are there. All Bill Self and Jim Boeheim and Mike Krzyzewski and Roy Williams, they're all in this big gym watching all the All-Americans. And I'm in this little private gym watching Stephen with Liberty and Winthrop. Those are the 3 coaches there. And Stephen bounced it off his foot. Stephen threw the ball away. Stephen airballed a shot. Stephen got beat defensively. But never once did Stephen blame a teammate, blame himself, blame the referee. Never once. He gets taken out of the game. He goes and looks the coach right in the eye for direction. He sits on the bench and he cheers during the game. He gets up off the bench and welcomes his teammates back to the bench. He checked every box. I don't care about the turnovers. I don't care about the missed shots. I don't care about the bad defense. He checked every box that I wanted to have on my team. That's why we offered him a scholarship. Simple. Now, I had been recruiting him. I knew he could shoot. But he was frail, skinny, baby-faced, weak. We played Wisconsin in the Elite Eight game. It was a Friday night. Thursday, all the big stations have ESPN, Fox Sports, CBS, NBC. They have a press conference with the coaches and the players. And I sat at the press conference, and I was asked a question. Are you guys happy to be here? And I said, I am completely at peace. Our players have done everything I've asked all year long. We're playing as well as we can. I am at peace. Go back to the hotel. Our players are watching a TV set that night. They see that press conference. Next day, we play against Wisconsin. 31-2, third round. They were a third seed. We were like a 12, 13 seed. They're 31-2, Big Ten champs. They had a great team. They were great and incredibly well coached. And we're playing at Ford Field in Detroit. 55,000 people. I mean, a basketball game at 55,000 people. And at Ford Field, because it's a football field, they have to bring the basketball court in so it's elevated. And the seats of the players is below. So it's almost like you're on a Broadway stage. I mean, I'm clicking, man. I'm like in the Majestic Theater. And a loose ball comes to me. And I take the loose ball, and I swear, I have no idea what possessed me. I take the loose ball, and instead of giving it to the referee, you know what I did? I went whap, 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 whap. Here you go. National TV, 55,000 people. I'm putting on this dribbling exhibition in front of the TV. I was just, and it wasn't planned. It just happened. You see, I really was at peace. That gave me the wherewithal to do that. I've done that stuff in practice, but not in front of 55,000 and the chance to get to the Elite Eight. But I was at peace. You see, I trusted. There was trust. When I began my career and we were really struggling at Davidson, I lived right across the street. I could throw a rock from my house to the parking lot. And I'd walk home at 4 o'clock each day of game day, and I'd sequester myself in the den in my house, and I'd study my notes. And I knew everything the other team did. I knew everything the other coach was going to do. I really knew everything. But as I came in the driveway and went into the den, I walked past our son, Matthew. Matthew's on the outdoor court here shooting jump shots. Shooting jump shots. He's like 11 years old, 8 years old. And I just brushed right by him and scurried into the room. Did my notes. 6 o'clock, I'd walk back across, and I was tight. Oh, was I tight. I had all this information in my head. I knew everything, but I was so wound up tight. Incredible. And I just absolutely disregarded my son to get myself ready. I'd walk into the locker room and say, the players would say, coach is real tight tonight. He doesn't think we're going to win. And only when I adopted this TCC and started to live it out in my life, I went and I played horse and one-on-one with my son. And instead of spending 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock working on a game plan, I worked with our son. I trusted that I had enough in my repertoire studying to be a coach and preparing for this team. I didn't have to worry about this extra time. I trusted. And I'd walk across the street, and I'd go into the locker room, and the players would look at me and say, man, coach is feeling pretty good tonight. I think we got a chance to win. And they were right. All because of the way I changed, the way I trusted. We have a couple of guys from Cleveland here, and there's this little event I did with our players. I did this a couple of years ago. I took a $100 bill. I gathered the team after practice, and I took a $100 bill. And the player's from Cleveland. He's from St. Ed's in Cleveland named Grant Huffman. He was a freshman. And I walk up to him, like in the middle of the circle, and our players don't know what I'm going to do. And I walk up and I say, Grant, how would you like a $100 bill? And Grant looks at me, typical Davidson student, he says, is it legal? I said, yeah, it's legal. Would you like a $100 bill? He says, yeah. I says, okay, I'm going to crumple it up. You still want the 100? I drop it on the floor, stomp it in the ground. You still want the 100? You see, we devalue people. We take away their value. Grant knew that he had $100 of value right there. He believed it. And we cannot allow that to happen to our youth today. We've got to trust them. Yeah, I mentioned Matt before about how I work out with him beforehand. I had the greatest joy in life being able to coach my two sons, our two sons in Division I college basketball, and they were both very successful and had incredible experiences. But you know what I'd never do? I was really tough on them. You know what I'd never do? I'd never tell the team about how hard they worked or what great teammates they were. I would tell them privately, Matt, I can't believe what you're the heart and soul of our team. Brendan, you wear Davidson on your heart. Thank you, thank you. I would tell him that personally. But you know why I never said it to him publicly? Because I didn't trust myself. Because I thought the players would think, oh, you're just saying that because they're your sons. I didn't have the trust in myself to take ownership of what really was happening at the detriment of our sons. How about that? Trust. My Catholic education taught me this. I was a bad boy. I was Sister Maria Del Rey, Sister Jerome, Sister Ann Catherine, you name it. They punished me. And you know what their punishment was? I had to stay after school and write on the blackboard. Not the whiteboard, the blackboard, you know, with a piece of chalk, 100 times. They're working on my penmanship, I understand that. But they're also, I will not talk in class. I will not talk in class. You write that 100 times, you're going to get the message, right? So I took that. That was 1956, 57. I took that because we had a player named Luka Brajkovic from Austria, 6'10", incredibly skilled, greatest kid in the world. You want your daughter to marry him. And yet, he had no confidence. So he's a senior now. It's time. So August of his senior year, I bring him in front of the team, in the locker room, stand him in front of the whiteboard, and I say, Luka, I want you to stand here and write on the board, I am the best big man in the Atlantic 10 Conference. And he does it, I said 10 times, not 100. And he does it 10 times. All our players are sitting there in their locker cubicle. Stupid Luka, silly Luka, look at him. Luka became player of the year in a conference. Trust. You are what you think you are. You become what you think you'll be. We moved to the Atlantic 10 Conference in 2013. We were in the Southern Conference, a low, mid-major, and then we moved up a notch. People said, I'm insane to do that. You're in the twilight of your career. Why would you move to a more difficult conference? What's wrong with you? Well, all the experts, they said, Davidson's not going to win a game in the Atlantic 10 this year. Matter of fact, they're going to go without a victory in the whole schedule of the Atlantic 10. Our players read that. I knew it. And I could talk about it every day. But you know what I did? It was more meaningful. I took a full-length mirror. I put it in our locker room. And I said, as you walk in the door every day, I want you to walk in the door, look at that mirror before you go to your locker and say, I see greatness. And then walk to your locker. When you walk out for practice each day, look in that mirror, I see greatness. When you go to bed each night and you wake up each morning, as you're brushing your teeth, think in your mind, I see greatness. I see greatness. We won the Atlantic 10 that year, 14-2 record. Because of the mirror? I don't know, but because of trust, I guarantee. Our guys believed it. They brainwashed themselves. They believed that they were good, they were great. They believed it. Trust. Second word is commit. You know, as I said to you, I trusted when I came to Davidson, but my confidence was blended with arrogance. I changed that, and I blended that confidence with humility. Humility, confidence and humility. What a potent combination. Commit. I was committed, I worked hard, but I was so consumed. Are you consumed with your job? Do you spend so much time with your job that you walk by the water fountain, don't have time for people, brush them aside, you're very brusque, places to go, people to see, things to do, money to raise? Is that the way you are? You got to commit. You can't be consumed. You can work hard, but you got to commit. At the first sign of trouble, you can't pull out. You can't surrender. And we live in a world of surrender. Matt Doherty played for me, the player for North Carolina, the coach of North Carolina Notre Dame. And Matt Doherty, as a high school senior, everyone was saying, oh, he's going to be an NBA player. And he never wanted to be considered as, the word back in those days was conceited. Never, I would never want to be conceited. And because he didn't want to be conceited, someone would come up to him and say, hey, Matt, you're going to play in the NBA someday, right? I hope I play in the NBA. Instead of saying, darn right, I'm going to play in the NBA. I'm going to work really hard to play in the NBA. Lou Holtz left Notre Dame to go to the New York Jets. And what did he say? I'm going to try the NFL. I'm going to try. He didn't say I'm committed to the Jets. He didn't say I'm going to commit myself to the NFL. I'm going to try. Try. You see, there are obstacles everywhere. I talked about the demons tonight. They're everywhere. Julius Caesar has the great victory in Gaul, marching his army back to Rome. The rule was, in the Republic, you disband your army before you cross the Rubicon River. Caesar's with his army at the Rubicon River, and he's famous for saying, the die is cast. Alia jacta est. He took his army across the river and created the dictatorship. Hernando Cortez, the Spanish explorer, lands at Veracruz in a conquest. The boats land, and what does he say? He says to the boats, burn the boats! Burn the boats! We're not turning back. Steph Curry, game number 79, playing Portland in the Oracle Arena, San Francisco, 2015, his first MVP season. They were NBA champions that year. I'm meeting him for dinner after the game. Waiting in the players' lounge after the game. 9:30. He's got a press conference. 10 o'clock. Probably doing a video press conference. 10:30. He's not there. 10:45, he shows up. Steph, where you been? 10:45. Well, the restaurants are going to be closed. What are you doing? Coach, I was lifting. Game 79. He just played 2.5 quarters. Coach, I'm lifting. 10 o'clock at night. I'm lifting. Coach, I'm lifting. Why, Steph? What are you lifting for? You know why I'm lifting? Got to work on my stamina, my core. Playoffs are starting in a week. I only played 2.5 quarters all year long because we're winning by so many points. I'm going to have to play 3.5 quarters, maybe 4 quarters. I got to get my stamina and core ready. How many guys in the NBA would do that? 79 games. Core. In my generation, there was a great basketball player at Powell Memorial High School in the league I played in. His name was Louis Alcindor. Louis Alcindor went to UCLA, and he dunked, and he dunked, and he dunked some more. And you know what? The NCAA says, that's not good for the game. We're going to take away the dunk. I don't know if you younger people knew that, but the dunk was taken away in '69. The dunk was forbidden. So what do you think Alcindor did? He committed. What is he famous for? Sky hook. He developed the sky hook because the dunk was taken away. You talk about commitment. Now, I know things are going to go wrong. They always go wrong, and you could commit like heck, and things go wrong. So what I did with our players, we're going through a very difficult streak. So I gave them a tennis ball after practice one day. And I said, I want you to take this tennis ball everywhere you go on campus. Classroom, dining hall, dormitory, college union, in your car, over to the gym. And as you're walking there, I want you to take the ball and I want you to bounce it. And as you're bouncing it, I want you to say, bouncing back, bouncing back, bouncing back. So they got this ball, they're bouncing back, we win the next game. So now I got to take this to the next step. So I have them write the name of the team that we just beat on the ball. And now you can see this ball, how many names are written on it, because this is the exact same ball that was used. All the coaches had one too. But you could see we won a lot of games because we were bouncing back. You see, we committed. We committed not physically, but emotionally. We committed. You know, and it's such a sad culture that we live in. We live in this culture of remote control. Geez, I don't like my wife. I'm going to get a new wife. I lifted weights all week, and I'm looking in the mirror, and my guns ain't very big. We want instant this and instant that. We need satisfaction. We need to be told we can have it today. We need it. There's a great player in the NBA named Brian Winters. He played for the Milwaukee Bucks, went to South Carolina. His son played for us. His son's name is Brendan. Brendan went to Mullins Jesuit in Denver, Colorado. And Brian, the dad, would go to Catholic Mass every day. He was a daily communicant. Brendan comes to Davidson, and he doesn't even go to Sunday Mass. One day I grabbed him, I said, Brendan, you know, why don't you go to Mass? You know, your dad goes every day. You know what he said to me? He said, yeah, he goes every day, but he's got the worst record in NBA history, and he's going to get fired. What good did it do him? You know what I said to him? Maybe he's praying for you. And Brendan wound up becoming a great player for us, and we'll have his number retired. He's in our Hall of Fame. Commit. Brendan wasn't ready to commit to his Catholicism because his father wasn't winning. You know, Stephen left us in 2009. So he left after his junior year to sign in the NBA, which never happens at Davidson College. I wish I had more of those players. But he leaves in 2009, okay? Stands in front of our banquet at the end of the year and says, I promise you I'm going to graduate. Commitment. 2010, the year of his graduation, he's now with the Golden State Warriors. They got knocked out of the playoffs, so he's free. He comes to graduation day, dressed to the nines, to be with his classmates and his teammates. Image in his mind, image. 2022, he graduates. Stephen is a millionaire/billionaire. That paper he got from Davidson College to say he graduate, I'm not going to get him any more money. But he honored his commitment. When he was a senior in high school, we signed him in November. In December, a Southeast Conference school coach, an ACC Conference school coach, called his mother, Sonia, we have a scholarship for Stefan. Would he be willing to come to? Sonia said, he's committed to Davidson College. He's committed to Davidson College. You know, you've got to commit. I don't know how many people have climbed mountains, but when you climb a mountaintop, you don't enter into a world of no mountaintops. What you do is you enter into a world where you see the next mountain better. That's all you do. The third word is care. You know, when Stefan had his first game at Davidson College, it was at Eastern Michigan. It was not far from here. We played Eastern Michigan in the Michigan tournament, and at halftime, Stefan was awful. It was just like he was in Las Vegas. I mean, awful. He had 9 turnovers, and we're down 17, 18 points. And he wasn't even a point guard, and he had 9 turnovers. Second half, we go into the locker room as a coaching staff and say, hey, you know, should we keep Steph in the game? Should we keep him there? What do you think? Should we keep him in the game? I don't know. Remember Las Vegas. Care. We recruited him because of Las Vegas. We put him in the starting lineup because of what he did. Show you care for him. Show you care. We kept him in the lineup. He finished with a double-double, and we won the game. 15 points, 13 turnovers. But the next night, he had 32 against Michigan, and his trajectory just blossomed. And to this day, he will say that was one of the defining moments of his career because we showed care for him. I had a player named Nick Booker, a wonderful kid, just a wonderful kid. And we'd go into a huddle. You know, you have these staff meetings and you have one staff member that just doesn't listen. You ever have that? Nick would go into the huddle and he wouldn't, at least I thought he wasn't listening. He was looking at me. And finally, I got so fed up. We'd have plays called and he'd not execute them. He'd be in the wrong spot defensively. So I checked with one of the professors, and the professor did a study of him and found out that he had not a super highway up there, but a dirt road. And I don't say that facetiously. He didn't process the spoken word. You know what he did process? The written word. So I changed completely. I changed every time out. I wrote the words of our play. And to this day, I still did that. Till I retired, I still did that. I wrote the word of the play so that Nick could process it. Care? When Steph was a junior, he was the leading scorer in the country. And we're playing Loyola of Baltimore. And the coach of Loyola of Baltimore decides he's going to go down in history. Steph is the leading scorer in the country. And I'm going to go down in history. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold Stephen scoreless. What is he, nuts? But you know what he did? He played a triangle and 2. What that means is 2 guys will guard Stephen. So we're guarding you. And you're handicapped too. Plus I saw your jump shot. So we're guarding you, Michelle. And we got 2 guys on you, and 3 guys are guarding 4 of our guys. And the 3 guys that are guarding 4 of our guys, they couldn't stop them. We're up like 28, 30 points at halftime. You figure they're going to make a change at halftime. They don't. They continued it in the second half, and he goes scoreless. So their coach accomplished what he wanted to do. But there are a couple of stories about this. Who would say, I'm going to, at the 16-minute mark, he came to the bench and said, I'm going to stand in the corner. So he stood in the corner the whole game. He's the leading scorer in the country, and he's going to sacrifice giving up a jump shot, scoring to stand in the corner. And that's what he did. You imagine that? And he didn't score. Story number 1 about that was maybe at the 16, 15-minute mark of the second half, he's so bored about standing in the corner, he starts eating popcorn. the sports information director started giving him popcorn. So he's eating popcorn during the game. We wound up winning by 35 points. But the coach of that team is now the college basketball director for Under Armour. Guess who has a very prominent position with Under Armour? And do you think Steph would be vindictive and say, oh, he ain't working for Under Armour? No, he forgave him. That's the power he has. Care. How can you show care? You know, we get so consumed that we sometimes lose sight. There's a great story about Bill Walsh. Bill Walsh was a terrific coach for the 49ers, San Francisco 49ers. And he's out on San Francisco Bay in his magnificent restaurant overlooking the bay, 14th, 15th floor, with his wife, Jerry. You figure romantic night, right, Ryan? You know what that's like, right? So they're having this beautiful dinner, candlelit, beautiful view. And Bill is just sitting there like this during dinner. And Jerry says to him, what is it, 3rd and 10, Bill? For you to understand, that means he was thinking about what the play they were going to run in the game on Sunday instead of being immersed in his wife and caring about his wife. And he admitted to that, so he acknowledged his weakness there. You know what we do? I would put a note in our player's sneaker. I'd put a note in the bottom of their locker. I'd go to their car and I'd put a note on their windshield. Hey, great practice today. Hey, I thought you were terrific. And then I took it a step further. I called their parents. Hey, Dave was terrific in practice today. What a great leader he was. And you're a parent that has just been on my butt about playing Dave more minutes. And here I am calling you without any other reason than to tell you Dave is playing great today. How do you feel about that? You feel great. And who are you going to tell that to? And Dave is going to come to school the next day, and how is he going to feel? It's full circle. It goes full circle. You know what else I discovered? We all wish people happy birthday. We all wish people happy anniversary. You know what I do? I keep a record of when someone dies. Jason Richards, one of our point guards, his dad died last Saturday. I texted him that morning and said, thinking about you today, Jay. I know it must be a tough day for you. You realize the power of that? That's the power of leadership that we have as Christian educators. That's the message that we can give. You know, I started with talking about gratitude. Let me tell you. Let me propose this. This is, I told you about high hopes. You know, suppose you play that at the end of the school day. You blast that on the intercom at the end of the school day, every day for like a month. See how your students react to that. You know what else I propose? I propose that when the morning starts, you get on the loudspeaker and you talk to every kid in that school. And you say, we're not going to start class for 20 minutes. I want you to write a note of thanks to somebody who made it happen that you are here in this school, this beautiful school today. Just send that note of thanks. And then you have your teacher collect that note and mail them or have them address it and make sure it's come from them. You realize the power that would create? You realize the impact that would have? It's the silliest little exercise, but I guarantee you, that's better than calculus, that's better than world history, that's better than any kind of course you could teach. Teaching them gratitude and then having them go full circle with their parents about that. Silly exercise, but do it. I know I've gone rather far, but let me finish this way. The secret of my experience of success at Davidson has been prayer. That has given me the green light. In joys and in sorrows and tears and in smiles and sadness and in happiness. God has never left me. Every time I asked, Jesus was there. That's what we are given the opportunity to do. I told you I was consumed. I didn't have time for my children. I can never have that time back. Remember I said time and love? I can't have that time back. Our oldest is 43. Her name is Karen. Beautiful wife, lovely mother of 3. She was a terrific tennis player in high school. I never watched her play tennis. Jim, you know why? Because I was out recruiting. I was with someone else's son. I was never with her. Those years just evaporated. I can never have them back. In 2011, the Southern Conference Championship, the Southern Conference tournament, was played in Charlotte. It's like a home game for us. I was excited. We had a good team. We could get an NCAA tournament bid. We got knocked out in the second round. So we never got to the finals. 2011. The championship game was played on March 7th, 2011. ESPN TV, Wofford against Appalachian State, 9 p.m. I wanted so much to be there in that court in Charlotte Coliseum. I wasn't, because we lost. You know where I was? I was in Thomas Jefferson Hospital in Charlottesville, Virginia. Karen was delivering a first child. I was there. The game ended at 11:15. You know what time she delivered Maggie? 11:25. God keeps us waiting, but it's constantly giving us messages. Leave here tonight trusting more, committing more, caring more. And don't let this just be an energizing, inspirational 40-minute, 50-minute talk. Live this. I promise you, you will be champions. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob, so much for your inspiration and for your example of leadership excellence. And here he is still picking up his things to take with him. Just want to thank you so much for being with us for our celebratory banquet tonight. And thank you to everyone who has been a part of the Van Lunen experience. This week revealed how much the program has grown and flourished since the first cohort met together in 2007. I give thanks to God for his rich blessing on our community of fellows. I have the joy of, along with Dave Hahn, of knowing each of you, and each of you has been in a cohort while we were there. So it feels to me, I don't know to you, Dave, but it feels like a great big family gathering because we know and have met every single one of you. From what we've experienced this week, I am convinced that among our fellows, there is sincere dedication, commitment to sustaining excellence in Christian education. My prayer is that the Van Lunen Center will continue to guide well and support every fellow in that important commitment for years to come. I want to give special thanks to our extraordinary Van Lunen faculty. Our Van Lunen board, and especially to Tom Dykhouse as board chair. Tom, along with Jan Drivestein, spent hours and hours and hours planning this event with me, and I am so thankful for the moments that they spent to make this a special week. And Their inspiration and dedication to excellence, along with the pure joy of just preparing for this week together, has been really a delight to experience. And finally, I especially want to thank my staff, Michelle and Sonia, for all their work in putting this together. Thank you. In closing, hear these words from Ephesians 3, verses 16 through 21. I pray that according to the riches of his glory, he may grant that you may be strengthened in your inner being with power through his Holy Spirit, and that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith, as you are being rooted and grounded in love. I pray that you may have the power to comprehend with all the saints what is the breadth and length and height and depth, and to know that the love of Christ that surpasses knowledge, so that you may be filled with all the fullness of God. Now to him who by the power at work within us is able to accomplish abundantly far more than all we can ask or imagine. To him be the glory in the church and in Christ Jesus to all generations, forever and ever. Amen. Thank you. You are dismissed.